Thank you for tuning in to the Kingdom Mandate broadcast. I'm your host today, Brother George Pearson. And as we start off each and every broadcast, we just want to give our gratitude for all you that continuously support the broadcast week after week, whether you're visiting us on Roku through the BGK Network app on our Kingdom Now TV channel, or whether you're visiting us on other platforms such as our YouTube channel. And we just like to thank each and every one of you once again for your continued support. This week, you can see I'm here by myself. My wife, she has been diagnosed with COVID, so therefore she's not able to be on the set. We want to pray that she get healed, set free, and delivered for what she has in store for us coming up in the month of March with the Women of Influence broadcast. And that March is International Women's Month, and we highlight women of influence within our communities, within our churches, with women at business, whether they're in business, whether they're in fitness, whether they're in marketplace, whether they're in ministry. We like to highlight those gems, and we've got some pretty good powerhouses on the in the lineup that I believe are going to really make an impact on on a lot of the lives of the people that hear what they have to say. I'm excited about what's going to transpire, and I know she's excited about what's going to transpire, and the guests that we're going to have are excited about what's going to transpire. So with that being said, just continue to pray for her and continue to uplift us in prayer that that we will continue to do what God has called us to do, concerning broadcasting and concerning the media ministry He's given us. God has given us books to write and broadcast to air and for people to view. And it's a concept that when I thought about ministry, I didn't know it was gonna I didn't know this would be a part of what God would had in store for us. We would write books and we would create content and be on TV. It brings a whole new understanding of what ministry is. We have to extend our reach and go beyond the institutionalized brick and mortar church. There's nothing wrong with that. But we have to learn how to get out of the four walls and begin to evangelize and to begin to reach people that we can't reach, otherwise. People that may never even come to church, people that may never even, have the opportunity to hear the gospel other than the other avenues that God has given to us, and I thank God that He's allowed us to be sensitive to what He's saying and what He's doing for us to move in it and to shift with it. And that's what our prayer will be, for those who are just looking to find out what is it that God has for us. God has always told us we would get prophetic words, and God would always tell us, through those prophetic words, you're not going to be like everybody else. And we never knew what that meant or how that would look. But now, even as we continue to move and yield and obey what we feel like God is telling us to do, we understand it a little bit more than before. What it is that He would have us to do when it says you not be like everybody else. So I just thank God. I just thank God for this opportunity to minister through the airwaves, to be able to reach people that we may not ever have reached before. I shared His testimony even with with the scribe anointing that God has given me to write books. We have 7 books. It will be 8 books. 8 books on 6 different continents, all verifiable, and I think it's like 18 or 19 countries now. So our books have went places where we've never went before. It have always been prophesied that we will be a voice to the nations. And, our books being in other nations, our voices being heard, whether they're reading it, whether they're hearing it, through the broadcast. So, we have to be open to when God begins to share with us begin to share with us the things that he would have for us to do, that we don't become so overwhelmed by thinking that it is impossible, because that's when it's God. I would have never thought that, I would have never thought that when they was prophesying that you got the pen of a Ready Rider, and I was like, you got the wrong person. And I know you've heard this story before. You've got the wrong person. That can't be me. And then when this guy began to deal with us about coming on TV, the same thing. I was like, I don't know, Lord. As I was looking at, I would look at what I was doing and how I was sounding. I was like, you sure? But even Moses, when he called Moses wasn't the most articulate one. That's why he raised up Aaron to be a spokesman for him. But even in that, God had let me see that, when you understand where you started and you understand where you're at, that brings forth a humility. That births a humility in you, to where you can't never, no matter how polished or how articulate you become, you can never forget where you came from. And I thank God for that, because so many people forget where they come from. They forget that their start. I'm a trainer on my job, and I share this with people. The people that I train, even though I train you, it still may take 3 to 6 months before you even get down, before you even become proficient, in what I've trained you with, because it's not something that you can just, get up out of bed and do every day. I had one trainee where he was really, really hard on himself. He was really, really hard on himself, because he thought he should have been doing what I was doing within the first day. And I was like, no, you can't compare you. And this is what the point I want to make. You can't compare yourself with others. You don't know their journey. We all have our own journey. Some people may be natural. Some people may have to work at it. Some people, natural and gifted, and some people may have to work at it. But at the end of the day, we have to understand that the objective is for us to become, to excel at what it is that we're doing. No matter how long it takes, So I said, I said that to say, there's a lot of us that, we can't continue to wait for the perfect time to do what it is that we feel that God has called us to do. We must do it. We must do it afraid. We must do it and work at it to become, proficient at it. I recall some videos I look at, and I said, man, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? I said that more than the content. Those were filler words, because I was nervous and because I hadn't found what worked for me, my rhythm. Now, when I'm teaching on another platform, when I'm just teaching, or ministering, there's, I don't have that challenge. But when I'm sitting here looking at the TV camera, I'm trying to make sure, because I know that I'm being recorded, and I know that I can't move around, and I can't, be relaxed. I felt like I was really boxed in, but now the more that I do it, the more comfortable I can get, the more feel of it that I can get. And I'm saying that to say this, you have to do something until you find out what works for you. And when I was training a young man, I said, this works for me. I'm just giving you the foundations. I'm giving you the basics. I'm giving you the fundamentals. Okay. But now, as you get out there and as you begin to do it, you'll find out what works for you. But it'll always go back to the fundamentals. You build off of the fundamentals. You build off the foundation that you was given. So, something might work for you that may not work for me. And I'm saying that to say that we all have something that we have to offer. Okay, and we can't be afraid, to step out and do it. It may be challenging, but the more that we do it, the more confident that we get, and the more confident that we get, the more easier it becomes. Okay, the more easier it becomes. The more easier it becomes. So, with that being said, I just, I don't know how I got on all that, but I think that, that was something that God wanted, to say, but that God wanted to say to, who's ever watching right now. When we come on this broadcast, we always know what we think we know what we want to talk about, but as we get to talking, as we get to flowing, as we get to speaking, something else God may take us in a whole nother direction. I don't know. And it's not us shooting off at the hip, and it's not us, but I think we have to learn. We have to really learn that everything can't be scripted, because if everything is scripted, and we've talked about this before, if everything is scripted, then that doesn't give God any room to work, because we never know who this video may, who may watch this broadcast, whose hands the video may get into, that needed to hear what was being said. And I think that's one thing that as born again believers, we have to learn how to do. We have to learn how to move with the Spirit. The children of Israel, they move with the cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night. We have to know when, we have to recognize the leading of the Lord and go in that direction, even when we don't understand where we're going. We have to trust in Him. And this is why our walk, is a walk of faith, is the believer's walk of faith, because we live in an unseen realm. We have dual citizenship as believers, and it was through the blood of Jesus that has allowed us to have this dual citizenship. When Jesus died on Calvary's cross, the blood that He shed brought us into a covenant with God, and that covenant with Him, it allows us to partake of His promises. It allows us to partake of His wisdom. It allows us to partake of His grace, His favor, His insight, all things that pertain to Him. He has given us, the scripture tells us over, and I think it's 1 Peter, that God has given us all things that pertain to life and godliness. So the only way that we have a right to partake of that is through the blood covenant. And I just thank God for the blood. I thank God for the blood. I thank God that the blood of Jesus is what delivered me off of, quote unquote, when they thought I wasn't going to make it with COVID. It delivered me off of, my bed of affliction, because God's favor and God's grace was sufficient for me, because I was in covenant with Him, and I had people that were in covenant with Him. I had people that were in covenant with Him, advocating on my behalf in the heavens, legislating on my behalf in the heavens, because they had to come against the spirit of premature death and destruction. And I just thank God. I just thank God for that. I thank God that, I'm here to be able to see prophetic fulfillment in words, in ministering, on TV, and in ministering, through media and writing books. All these were prophetic words that have been given, and I have so many prophetic words that I feel like I'll be here for the next 100 years, because those words have to come to pass as long as I'm willing. As long as I'm willing to do my part, God is going to do His part. We all have a part to play. People say, well, they said this, the prophet said that, and it didn't come to pass, but it It may have not came to pass because of the simple fact that you did not do what you were supposed to do in bringing it to pass. Okay, you have to do your part. We all have to play our part in what it is that God has called us to do. God doesn't make any of us do anything, and we see that when we look at the Garden of Eden. He said of every tree, you can partake of, but don't partake of that tree. He didn't, he told them what not to do, but he didn't keep them from doing it, because evidently if he would have kept them from doing it, they wouldn't have done it. Okay, so God has given us all that, he's given us all that choice, and we have the choices that we can make. If we want to remain where we are, we want to proceed in advance to go where God desires for us to be, where God desires for us to be in life. And that's the fulfillment of purpose. We are all, I shared this in my book. When I wrote a dedication to my first published book, self-published book, The Inside Job, Overcoming the Hurt and the Pain of Rejection, I wrote that concerning when I wrote the dedication. I wrote it to my kids, and I shared with them, you may have not been born on purpose, but you were born what? For a purpose. And we are all born for a purpose. We all come into this, into this earth realm for a purpose, and it's up to us to find out to put ourselves in a place to where we find out what our purpose is, and begin to hone that, because our purpose is to help someone else, get through life, to encourage someone else in life, to comfort someone else in life, to edify someone else in life. We have to be that in which we are looking for, to someone else, for someone else. We're all looking, we all, I don't care who you are, we all need someone to encourage us. We all want someone to be there to comfort us and lay our head on their shoulder and just be able to, be built up and poured into. We all need that. We all need that. We all want that. So that's what we have to become, because as a man soweth, that shall he also reap. If you always got your hand out to receive and never to give, guess what? You're not going to be receiving too much, because the law of reciprocity says that whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he what? Also reap. We know that, and that I learned that the hard way. Because I was sowing some bad seed, and that seed was coming to harvest. That seed was coming to harvest pretty quick. It was coming to harvest pretty quick, and I was like, oh no, I can't live like this, because if I live like this, then it's not looking too good. So I had to change my ways. I wasn't the worst person or the bad person, but things was coming around. I would do something one minute, and it seemed like I was reaping the next minute. When they say the reaper would overtake the sower would overtake the reaper, the reaper would overtake the sower. Basically, as soon as they sowed it, they'd reap a harvest. Yeah, that's how it was. When I was doing my dirt, it was coming back to me too quick, and I said, I don't know, I got to change my ways, because I'm reaping what I'm sowing. So I'm saying that to say this, sometimes we have to understand we have to be that very thing of what it is that we're looking for, to someone else, because God raised someone else to do what it is to do for us, what it is that we're doing for others. It may not come, through the people that we're doing it for. It may not come from the people that we're doing it for. It may come from somebody on a whole nother part of the world, that God will raise up to do what it is that, we desire to be done in our lives. We just have to know that we're being obedient we're being obedient enough to know that we're giving and we're sowing and we're releasing what it is that God has placed in us into someone else, and then someone else in return will pour into us. You can't keep on trying to, you can't keep on. This one thing I really, and like I said, I don't know where we going with this, but I'm gonna just flow. I'm just going. One thing people always expecting something from someone else that they're not willing to do for others. People are always expecting something from someone else that they're not willing to do for others. So why should you expect something to happen for you that you're not willing to make happen for someone else? Okay, so and that really disturbs me, because my wife and I, we try to it's just I share this with everybody, my kids, everybody. Everything that we have is a result of what is a result of a seed, is a result of something that we've given. Whether it was our time, our resources, whatever the case, our finances, whatever the case it was, we have always been, givers, and people see the favor that operates on our lives, and it's a result of, us helping those that God has placed in our path to help. And at one time, I think at one time when we had to really understand that, okay, no, God ain't saying do that. That's us doing that. We had to pull back, in what we were doing, because I think a lot of people could almost depend on us as if they were dependent on God to do something for them or to help them out. And it's one thing for, we want to be people of integrity, and we want people to be able to, depend on us if we give our word, to them, but not be dependent upon us to the point to where, they don't feel that they have to do what they need to do, their part. They feel like hey, it's not my, it's not our. Here. This is what I want to say. Don't think that you could go do what you want to do, squander what you want to squander with your finances, but then think and expect someone else, to be your safeguard, your safety net. Oh, well, I know I just go over there and get so and so and such and such. That's not how that works. That's not how that works. If you need it, you need it. But if it's because of something that you just felt like you just wanted to do, that's on you. God ain't laid up on our heart to bail you out. And you shouldn't have that attitude in life, thinking that you're entitled to be bailed out, because whoever this is for, and we in a generation that's feel like they're very entitled. They're entitled to, they're just, I don't know what it is, just feel like they're entitled. Oh, you need to do this just because, I'm entitled to it for whatever reason, and I don't want to get off into all that right now, but, we have to realize, we really have to realize, let me get back on point, we really have to realize what God is telling us to do, and how God is telling us to do. And I was talking about being, we have to be to others what we desire others to be with us, and we can't take that. We can't allow that to be perverted. I'll say it like that. We can't allow that to be twisted. We can't allow that to be misconstrued, when it comes to other people and how they, and how they receive it or don't receive it, point blank. But, this is what, hey, this is what this broadcast is all about. We just just flow. We're not shooting off at the hip. And I, if my co-host was here, I think this would be a very good dialogue because her insight concerning this is real revelatory as mine is, when it comes to, just being there for people. And that's what God has called all of us. He's called all of us to be there for someone. We can't be selfish. Jesus, the message of the kingdom is not a message of being selfish, but it's a message of sharing. A lot of people can't go forth in life because they're selfish. It's all about them. It's all about me, my four, no more. But when you can't go beyond the parameters of your four, no more, then you limit your capacity to receive anything beyond, your four, no more. So you got a small, you're putting yourself in a small box and you're believing God for a great harvest, but that great harvest won't fit in that small box. Okay, you got what I'm saying? Because you haven't extended your territory, you haven't extended your reach, to go beyond where you are presently. Even when we do these broadcasts, and as I was sharing about our books and our broadcasts, we decided that we were going to extend our reach. We didn't know when God said you're not going to be like everybody else that was going to mean that we were going to extend our reach beyond the four walls of a brick and mortar institution. We had a brick and mortar of facility. We had programs where we had a program for the young children that they came and they enjoyed themselves and we imparted into them, and and they went back and they came back week after week because of what it was that they were experiencing, the love that they was experiencing, the fun that they were having, and most of all, understanding that church was not just about it was much more to church than what they had seen. That was our church. We were very instrumental in our community when we had those programs. And I'm saying that to say this, but when that season was up, God let us know that it was up, and we moved on. And we moved on. And now, when we thought that, man, ain't nobody coming to the church and ain't nobody doing this and ain't nobody doing that, it was time for, that the cloud had moved. The pillar of fire had moved and we had to move with it. You get what I'm saying? So God allowed us to begin to expand our territory, even with writing books, even with doing this broadcast. That's what I'm saying. Sometimes, when we see the brook dried up, even when we look at Elijah, when the brook Sharif dried up, he sent him to be fed, by the widow. Okay. Yeah, that was Elijah. Yeah, he sent him to be fed by the widow. When one place dried up, he had another place prepared, but it was up to him to be obedient, to shift, to hear, and to know where was his next. Where was his next place where his next place of feeding would come from. So this is why we have to understand that, we have to always keep our ear towards heaven and know what God is saying and what God is doing. And we must know that we have something to give others. Amen. So I just want to thank each and every one of you for just tuning in, and I pray that you were able to get something out of this broadcast. And I pray, continue to keep my wife in her prayers, that she may overcome, that she has overcome, and pray for the broadcast, pray for the ministry, pray for those that listen to the ministry through the broadcast. Just be in prayer, because this is a season that we really all need to be in prayer, because the prophetic forecast, if you don't have Christ in your life, it'll look like doom and gloom, and you won't be ready for the impact. But God does nothing except He first revealed it to His prophets. He does nothing except He will not do anything that keeps us unaware. So prophets, prophetic people, born again believers. We all have that DNA. Of a prophet. We may not be a prophet, but we have that DNA of a prophet. We have that prophetic nature because we have the character and the nature of Christ living within us, because we are the righteousness of God. So I just want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in. And until the next time, we say shalom.